My name's Nolan. I'm 29 years old, single, and, apparently, the family disappointment, though no one ever says it when it's just me and them. They save that little phrase for special occasions, like Thanksgiving, when there's a full audience and everyone's full of cheap wine and a little too proud of themselves. I hadn't planned on going this year. Last Thanksgiving, my cousin Tyler got drunk and called me a charity case with a GED, even though I have a degree, just not the kind they think is impressive. Art school, graphic design. Not law. Not medicine. Not whatever my sister Kelsey does that lets her throw around words like synergy and IPO without explaining a thing. But this year, Mom had called and asked me to come. Said Grandma would love to see me. And even though the rest of them act like I'm invisible, I always had a soft spot for Grandma May. She never judged. Never compared. She just asked if I was eating enough, or if I was seeing anyone, or if I'd painted anything new. That was enough. So I packed a bag, caught the early train, and arrived the night before Thanksgiving, suitcase in hand, sketchbook tucked under my arm. I stayed in the guest room. Well, technically the storage room with a pullout, because the others had already claimed the real beds. Tyler got the actual guest room. Kelsey took Grandma's room, since Grandma now lived full-time at a care facility down the road. I didn't argue. I never do. That's sort of my thing in this family. Keep your head down, be polite, smile when they ignore you. Thanksgiving morning started like it always does, everyone pretending they were doing all the work, even though it's always Aunt Linda who actually makes the food. I offered to help. She brushed me off. We're good, Nolan. Just stay out of the kitchen, okay? I nodded and backed out, like an obedient waiter dismissed from the floor. While they cooked, I sat in the corner of the living room with my sketch pad, quietly drawing the pile of firewood out back. I hadn't even gotten the shadows right when I heard my cousin Tyler loudly say from the kitchen, "Hope Nolan doesn't burn anything this year. Remember the gravy incident?" That was from 2015. I had knocked over a dish trying to help clean. It splashed on Kelsey's blazer and stained the hardwood. You'd think I committed treason. The dinner table was one long stretch of forced smiles and clinking glasses. Kelsey brought her new boyfriend, Darren, some finance guy with a Rolex and a grin like a toothpaste ad. He asked me what I did for a living. I told him I worked freelance, branding work, album covers, murals, and before I could even finish, he gave me that pity smile and said, "Cool, man. So like, Fiverr stuff?" Kelsey laughed. Aunt Linda topped it off halfway through dinner when I passed the cranberry sauce and she muttered, "Well, at least he can pass things. That's an upgrade." Her voice wasn't even that quiet. No one flinched. I was about to take a bite of stuffing when it happened, the moment that cracked whatever patience I had left. My aunt scoffed, loudly, and said, "You're just the family disappointment. Sit down and try not to embarrass us." A few chuckles rolled around the table. My mom didn't defend me. She just sighed and added, "Just be grateful we let you come." I froze. My fork halfway to my mouth, my eyes fixed on the plate. Something shifted in me. Not anger. Not sadness. Just clarity. The kind that whispers, "You're done here." I smiled. A real one, too. Not the tight-lipped kind I usually wear when they're mocking me. I gently placed my fork back down on the plate. Looked around the table. No one noticed. They were laughing, joking, passing plates over me like I wasn't even there. I quietly excused myself to the bathroom. No one looked up. Once inside, I didn't even close the door all the way. I just stood there for a second, staring at my reflection in the mirror. I looked tired. Hollow. But calm. Too calm. Like I'd already accepted something they hadn't figured out yet. I stepped out, crept down the hall, and opened the closet near the stairs where I'd tucked my suitcase the night before. I rolled it out as quietly as I could. The wheels thudded once against the hardwood, but the noise from the dining room covered it up. I made my way toward the front door, and then paused. That's when I remembered something. Grandma May. 2 weeks ago, she'd called me from her care home. It was a short call, she was tired, but she had told me she didn't trust Aunt Linda with her things anymore. Said she felt like people were treating her as if she was already gone. She asked me, very gently, if I could make sure her jewelry box stayed safe. Back then, I didn't understand what she meant. But now, standing in the hallway, suitcase in hand, I turned toward the study. It was exactly where I remembered, top drawer of the old writing desk, inside a red velvet pouch. Grandma's jewelry box. She always said it wasn't worth much money, just memories. Inside were trinkets, keepsakes, and a little gold necklace I'd made for her in high school out of twisted wire. She'd worn it every day until the clasp broke. "This means more to me than anything in a bank," she once said. I took the pouch and tucked it deep into my bag, wrapped in my hoodie. It wasn't stealing. It was fulfilling a promise, one they didn't even know she made. The moment I opened the front door, cold air brushed across my face. They were still in there, arguing about whether Darren's pumpkin pie was store-bought. I heard Tyler curse about whipped cream, and my mom scolding him for using the cheap plates. I stepped outside, closed the door softly behind me. They didn't even notice I was gone. I walked down the driveway, past the hedge I used to hide behind during hide-and-seek as a kid, and down the road where I'd parked my rental car. As I slid into the seat, my phone buzzed once, a calendar reminder, call Grandma. I smiled and whispered, soon. But as I started the engine and turned the car around, heading toward the hotel I booked as a backup, I knew something they didn't. They wouldn't even realize what was missing, not yet. But when they did, when they finally went looking for it, it would be far, far too late. The hotel wasn't anything special, just a modest, quiet place off the highway, but after what I'd left behind, the room felt like a five-star suite. I dropped my bag at the foot of the bed and collapsed into the armchair by the window. I stared out at the empty lot and leafless trees while the heater rattled to life. For the first time in what felt like years, I could finally breathe. No passive-aggressive barbs. No fake smiles. No being treated like the seat filler in someone else's life. That night, I called Grandma May. "Hey, sweetheart," she said, her voice soft but warm. "I wasn't expecting you to call today. Did they feed you all right?" There was a pause. I swallowed hard. "I left early," I said. "Didn't feel like staying." "Oh," she hesitated. "They gave you trouble again, didn't they?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. "I figured," she whispered. "I'm sorry, Nolan. I should have never told them to invite you." "You didn't," I said. "Mom just used your name." Another pause. She sighed. "Did you find it?" "I did," I said. "It's safe. Just like you asked." "Good," she said, and her voice cracked. "Just a little. I didn't want them getting their hands on it. That necklace, your grandfather gave me the locket before he passed. And you gave me that wire heart. I don't care about diamonds. That box has my life in it." I looked down at the pouch, resting on the bedside table like a time capsule. I thought about the way Kelsey always rolled her eyes at Grandma's old junk and how Tyler had once joked about selling it all for poker money. They had no idea what they were throwing away. Grandma and I talked a while longer. She told me stories, ones I hadn't heard before, like how she used to sneak chocolate to my dad when he got grounded, or how she once poured grape juice into a wine bottle at a church dinner just to mess with the pastor. I laughed for the first time that day. "Before we hung up," she said, "you don't owe them kindness just because they share your last name, Nolan. Remember that." And I did. The next morning, my phone started buzzing around 7 a.m. First, it was Mom. "Where did you go? Are you okay?" Then Tyler. "Bro, did you really bail mid-dinner?" "LOL, Darren said you ghosted." Then Aunt Linda. "Is this some kind of joke? Where's the red pouch?" I smiled. The jewelry box was old, sure, but I knew exactly why they were scrambling now. Grandma May had told me something else on that call. Something they hadn't expected her to do. "Nolan," she said, "I changed my will 2 months ago. You're the executor, and you're the one inheriting the house." I blinked when she first said it. I thought I misheard. "They don't know yet," she continued, "but they'll find out soon. I wanted to make sure the house didn't get gutted and sold. You're the only one I trust." It made sense now. The jewelry box wasn't just sentimental. It was symbolic. Grandma knew it, and now I did too. Aunt Linda and the others thought they'd get first pick. Antiques, furniture, even her personal letters. But Grandma had filed everything through her lawyer and mailed me a notarized copy the week prior. It was sitting in my messenger bag, right next to my laptop. I let their texts pile up for hours. By noon, my mom called again, this time 3 times in a row. Voicemail after voicemail. The tone shifted from concerned to irritated to desperate. "Nolan, honey, please call us. We need to talk about something important. Something serious." I finally texted back. "I'm safe. Thanks for the warm welcome yesterday." 3 dots. Typing. Then, MOM texted. "Look, we were just joking. Don't be so sensitive." I replied, "Joking when you call me a disappointment?" MOM texted. "Don't turn this into something it's not. We're family." I nearly laughed. Instead, I opened a new message and typed out a photo, the jewelry box open, with a handwritten note from Grandma tucked inside. It read, "To Nolan. For keeping what matters safe." I sent it. 10 minutes later, Mom called again. This time, I picked up. "Nolan, she said quickly. We need to talk about Grandma's things. Linda can't find the box, and we were all hoping to sort through it together. You mean divide it behind her back? I asked, voice flat. There was a pause. No, no. Don't be dramatic. I'm not, I said. Grandma gave it to me. She told me to keep it safe. Mom's voice turned cold. You have no right to just take things from this house. It's not your house, I replied. And soon, legally, it won't be yours to step into either. I could feel her inhale sharply through the phone. What does that mean? She asked, her voice brittle. I'll let the lawyer explain it when the paperwork comes through. But until then, you might want to stop pretending you're in charge. I ended the call. I didn't need to explain more. The pieces were already falling into place. Over the next few days, the group chat they'd made, Thanksgiving crew, went from cheerful and smug to quiet and hostile. Kelsey sent a passive-aggressive meme about taking without asking. Tyler posted a single word, unreal. They still didn't know the full extent of what was coming, but they would, just not on their timeline anymore. Just like Grandma said, you don't owe them kindness just because they share your last name. And now, for once, I was the one holding the cards. It took less than a week for the family to realize I wasn't bluffing. I had expected silence after that last phone call, maybe a few cold texts, some petty jabs from Tyler, or a guilt trip from Mom. But what I got was far more satisfying. On Friday morning, I received a call from Elaine Fisher, Grandma's estate attorney. She spoke with the kind of crisp confidence that makes you sit up straighter, even when you're alone in a hotel room with unbrushed hair and an old hoodie on. Mr. Nolan Prescott, she asked. That's me. I'm calling to confirm that we've received your signed executor's confirmation. Your grandmother also gave us explicit instructions to deliver copies of the will and associated materials to the remaining family members by Monday morning. I leaned back in the chair. So they'll know by then? Oh, they'll know, she said with a smile in her voice. And just between us, your grandmother was a very thorough woman. She left video instructions. My eyebrows rose. Like a recording? Like a full address to the family. It will be played when we open the reading. She insisted. God, I could hear her already. Sitting in her little recliner, probably wearing one of her flowered cardigans, sipping tea, and calling each of them out with that sweet, sharp tone only Grandma May could pull off. After I hung up with Elaine, I decided to stop waiting for the next call. I packed up my things, checked out of the hotel, and drove straight to the care home. Grandma was already waiting on the front patio, bundled up in a fleece blanket and sipping on some watered-down apple juice. She smiled when she saw me, eyes twinkling like she'd been expecting me all morning. You came, she said. I sat down next to her. Of course I did. She looked me over. You look lighter. I feel it, I said. They're scrambling. She chuckled. Let them. They've spent years taking and taking, assuming I'd be too old or too scared to do something different. I hesitated for a moment. Are you sure you're ready for the fallout? It's going to get ugly. She looked out at the trees. Sweetheart, I'm 84. Ugly doesn't scare me. Regret does. And the only thing I'd regret is letting them treat you the way they treat me. I've seen how they talk about you. About me. Like we're burdens. Like we're just waiting around to be cleared out like garage clutter. She turned to me, voice firm now. You're the only one who ever listened. Who sat with me without checking your phone. Who actually cared what I had to say. That house, my memories, my legacy, it belongs with someone who'll protect it. Not someone who wants to turn it into an Airbnb with a hot tub and a TikTok tour. I smiled, but my stomach churned. I knew she was right, and I knew what was coming. Kelsey would rage. Aunt Linda would scream. Mom, she'd try to guilt me into reconsidering for the good of the family. But I wasn't that version of Nolan anymore. The one who sat quietly at family dinners, head down, fork paused mid-bite while they roasted me alive. That Nolan stayed in that house. I left the care home after an hour, just as the sun started to sink below the trees, casting everything in soft gold. I took the long way back to the city, stopping only once to grab a framed print of Grandma's favorite painting from an art store she used to take me to as a kid. It was a stormy ocean, dark clouds curling into each other, but there was one beam of light breaking through. I figured it'd look nice in the living room. By Sunday night, the texts had turned into emails. I got one from Tyler that read like a fourth grader's attempt at diplomacy. Subject, hey man. Body, so heard some stuff from Mom about Grandma's house? Not sure what's going on, but seems like there's been a mix-up or something. Can we chat? I didn't reply. Then one from Kelsey. Subject, Grandma's things. Body, I know we've had our differences, but let's try to be adults about this. If you ended up with the jewelry box, that's fine. But some of us have real financial obligations, and we were hoping to use that inheritance to help. Just something to consider. Don't make this harder than it has to be. There it was, the guilt-laced manipulation. Served cold, like her personality. And then Mom's message, which hit a different note entirely. Subject: please read. Body: Nolan, this has all gotten so out of hand. No one meant to make you feel unwelcome on Thanksgiving. We were just caught up in the chaos of the day. You've always been part of this family, and it breaks my heart to see us so divided. If you got caught up in something with Grandma, well, maybe you didn't understand what she meant. She's old, and sometimes she says things without realizing the consequences. Let's meet. Just you and me. No pressure. We'll talk. It would have almost worked. A year ago, it would have worked. But not now. Because I'd read every page of that will. Because I'd watched Grandma's video. Because I knew. So I didn't respond. I just opened a new folder on my desktop and labeled it Inheritance Final Documents. I dragged in the PDFs, the deed transfer, and a copy of the video file from Elaine. And then I waited. Monday morning, I got a calendar invite from Elaine for 11 a.m. Family will reading, private Zoom link attached. I clicked accept. When I logged in, I muted myself and turned off my camera. Not out of fear, just because I wanted to watch them first. The moment they realized what was happening. And Linda was the first one in, hair stiff with hairspray, lips tight. She looked annoyed. Kelsey came next, in a blazer like she was interviewing for control. Tyler was in a backwards cap and clearly hadn't showered. Mom joined last, her makeup just a bit too heavy, probably hoping it made her look together. Elaine appeared with a professional smile. Thank you all for joining, she said. Before we begin, your mother, May Prescott, prepared a message. She requested it be played in full before any other documents are reviewed. Aunt Linda frowned. A message? Like a letter? No, Elaine replied. A video. Kelsey scoffed. Seriously. Elaine clicked something. The screen changed. And there she was, Grandma May, sitting in her recliner, wearing her blue cardigan and pearls, looking right into the camera like she was reading their souls. Hello, everyone, she said warmly. If you're seeing this, I've passed on. But don't look so grim. Some of you barely visited while I was alive. No need to get weepy now. Tyler chuckled. Linda glared at him. I wanted to speak directly, she continued, because I know how quickly words get twisted in this family. So here it is, plain and simple. Nolan is the executor of my estate. He is inheriting the house, the assets, and yes, the jewelry box. Kelsey opened her mouth. Grandma raised a finger on screen. And before any of you argue, let me remind you, I heard every word you said when you thought I wasn't listening. About turning my house into a flipper project. About pawning off my jewelry. About how Nolan was just a background character. Well, guess what, darlings? He was the only one who ever asked me how I felt. The room was silent, except for Grandma's voice. And for those of you who are already thinking about lawyers, go ahead. This will's been notarized, recorded, and filed twice over. You'll waste your money and embarrass yourselves, something you're already quite good at. The video faded. The screen returned to Elaine. Shall we continue? She asked. And that's when it started unraveling. The silence that followed Grandma's message was delicious. Not the kind of silence you get when people are stunned. This was heavier. Like all the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. No one dared speak first. Aunt Linda, unsurprisingly, broke the spell. This is outrageous, she snapped, her voice sharp enough to slice glass. She was confused. She wasn't thinking straight. Elaine didn't flinch. Mrs. Prescott's mental acuity was reviewed and certified as sound by 2 separate physicians within 30 days of the will's signing. All sessions were documented and video recorded. Linda opened her mouth again, but no sound came out. Her jaw clenched, and she looked away, fuming. Kelsey was next, trying her usual passive-aggressive charm. Look, I'm not trying to start drama, but this whole thing feels off. Grandma loved all of us. It doesn't make sense that she'd give everything to Nolan and leave nothing for the rest of the family. She didn't leave nothing, Elaine said evenly. Each of you will receive a small inheritance, as outlined in the appendix. Tyler, $500. Kelsey, $750. Linda, $1,000. Your mother, Jane, will receive $1,000 as well. Nolan, you are to receive the house, its contents, the full remaining value of her accounts, and sole ownership of the family trust and its 401k equivalent. You could practically feel the temperature in the Zoom room drop 10 degrees. Tyler finally unmuted, leaned toward the camera, and muttered, "That's BS. She wouldn't do that. Nolan probably manipulated her." That was the moment I decided to turn my camera on. I stared directly at the screen. "Hi, Tyler." He leaned back like he'd seen a ghost. "You can keep your $500, I added. "Buy yourself a mirror so you can see exactly who pushed Grandma to this point." He started to speak, but I cut him off. "You mocked her memory loss for laughs. I heard you call her a slow old bat on Christmas Eve. You said she'd be gone soon anyway. Don't act surprised now that she took your advice and left." His face turned crimson. "I hate you, man." I just smiled. "This is just me returning the favor." Kelsey leaned forward, trying a different tactic. "Nolan, seriously, do you really think you deserve all this? You're barely making ends meet freelancing. You live in a one-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and no central air. We could help. We could pool it." "Let me stop you right there," I said. "You want the house because it's worth something. You don't care what's inside it. You don't care about the garden, the back porch swing, the shelf of paperbacks she reread every summer. You want equity. Grandma wanted legacy. That's why I'm here. That's why you're not." My mom, quiet until now, finally unmuted herself. Her voice was low, shaky. "Nolan, please. Can we talk privately?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilt or fear or the need to fix things that weren't mine to fix. I just saw a woman who had always tried to keep the peace by letting me be the family's emotional punching bag. "No," I said softly. "You had every chance. At every birthday. Every holiday. Every time someone made a cruel joke at my expense, and you chose to laugh or stay silent. You let them chip away at me piece by piece. And now that I finally have something you want, now you want to talk?" Her face twisted, not in anger, but shame. Real shame. I saw her blink twice and look down. For a moment, I thought she might apologize. But the words never came. Maybe they never would. Elaine cleared her throat. "If there are no further objections, I'll proceed with filing the transfer of ownership. Nolan, the house will be under your name by Friday. The locksmith has already been scheduled, per May's request. She wanted all the locks changed immediately. No keys will be issued to anyone else." Linda scoffed. "Unbelievable." I shrugged. "Feels pretty believable to me." The call ended 5 minutes later. The next few days were quiet. No calls. No texts. Just silence. And I cherished every second of it. On Friday morning, I stood outside the house I used to visit every weekend as a kid. The one with the wraparound porch and the crooked wind chime and the hummingbird feeder I helped Grandma hang every spring. Only now it was mine. The locksmith handed me the new keys and nodded. "All set. Deadbolts too, just like the order said." I walked through the front door slowly, like I was stepping back in time. Nothing had changed. Same couch. Same crocheted blankets. Same smell, old wood, lavender, and cinnamon. I dropped my bag on the floor and made my way to the study, where the old record player still sat in the corner. I flipped through Grandma's vinyls and picked one, Ella Fitzgerald. Her favorite. I let the music drift through the house as I walked room to room, breathing in the quiet. Not the kind of silence I grew up with, that awkward, judgmental silence that came when I entered a room. This was peaceful, intentional. I spent the weekend dusting, organizing, and rearranging just slightly, enough to feel like me, not so much that it erased her. In the attic, I found old photo albums. I stayed up past midnight looking at them. Me in overalls, grinning with paint all over my face. Grandma beside me, holding up one of my awful macaroni collages like it was a Picasso. There was one picture, just her and me, taken on the porch swing. She was laughing, mid-sentence. I framed it, put it on the mantel. On Monday morning, I drove to the care home. Grandma was waiting in the lounge, reading the newspaper with her giant magnifying lens. "You look different," she said as I walked in. "I feel different." She grinned. "They take it badly?" "Very." She gave a satisfied sigh. "Good." I wheeled her out to the car and took her to the house. She cried when she walked through the front door. "You kept everything," she whispered, running her hands along the furniture. Of course I did. We spent the whole day there. I made tea. She told me stories. And when I walked her back to her room that evening, she kissed my cheek and said, "You made me proud, Nolan. You always did. I just wanted them to see it." I squeezed her hand. "They don't have to. I do. It's been 6 months now. The house is mine, but I call it ours." I turned the guest room into an art studio. I planted new flowers in the front garden. Every Sunday, I pick Grandma up and we sit on the porch together, just like we used to. The rest of the family hasn't visited. Kelsey sent a single email 3 months ago, something cold and professional about reconsidering asset distribution. I replied with one sentence. Grandma reconsidered everything. That's how we got here. Mom hasn't reached out again, and I haven't missed her. Sometimes, when I walk through the living room, I glance at the photo on the mantle, Grandma laughing on the swing, me beside her with messy hair and glue-stained fingers, and I think about that Thanksgiving. About how they all laughed, passed plates over me like I didn't exist. They thought I was a joke. They thought I'd always sit quietly at the edge of the table, grateful for scraps. But I stood up, walked out, and took back more than they ever knew was mine. And by the time they realized what I'd taken, it was already too late.